In the distant future, in a galaxy where numerous alien species coexisted, a new wave of students gathered in the grand halls of the Intergalactic Academy. They were young, eager, and ready to learn about the most advanced civilizations in the universe. Among these students were beings from countless worlds: the towering crystalline Shalafians, the highly intellectual Seraphians, and the deadly, war-hardened Xerox, just to name a few. But on this particular day, the students were about to learn a lesson that none of them had ever expected. A lesson that would leave them questioning everything they had ever known about strength, survival, and the true nature of heroism. Their teacher, Professor Audrin, a wise and aged being from the Andromeda sector, stood before them with an air of excitement. His species had always been known for its peaceful nature and vast knowledge, and he was the perfect guide for these curious young minds. As the students took their seats, he began the lecture, his voice a calm but authoritative presence in the room. "Today, students," he began, "we will discuss the most pivotal event in the history of the galaxy, the Great War of the Starborn." The students exchanged knowing glances. The Great War had been taught in all schools, an event from centuries ago that had shaped the political landscape of the galaxy. It was a war that involved every major power and threatened to annihilate all life, but what they didn't know was that this was not just another history lesson. This was the moment that would reveal the true heroes of the galaxy. Professor Audrin activated a holographic projector, and a massive image filled the lecture hall. It was a battle scene. Countless ships clashed in space, while explosions and debris scattered across the dark expanse. But then something unusual appeared on the screen. A small, seemingly insignificant vessel, by far the smallest ship in the entire fleet, drove straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The students watched in silence, confused. That ship, which appeared no different from any other, was the key to the end of the war. It seemed absurd. Professor Audrin continued, "This ship, students, was piloted by humans, a race that, up until that point, had been considered unremarkable by the rest of the galaxy's powers. They were a species with no long-standing history of warfare, no vast fleets or advanced technology. They were known for their resilience, their creativity, and their ability to survive against the odds. But what they lacked in power, they more than made up for in sheer willpower." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to sink in. The students had been taught that the galaxy's most advanced races were the ones who wielded the most power, who held the most influence. Yet here was a race that, in their eyes, barely mattered in the grand scheme of things. How could they be responsible for the end of the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen? The humans, Professor Audrin said, despite being outmatched in every way, fought like no other. When the enemy, a terrifying coalition of the most brutal species in the galaxy, unleashed their ultimate weapon, an unstoppable force, capable of wiping out entire worlds, it was humanity that found a way to stop it. The holographic image shifted, and now the students saw the humans on the screen. A team of them, working together with little more than makeshift equipment, hacking into the enemy's mainframe, reversing the weapon's targeting system, and unleashing the very destruction that had been meant for them. The enemy fleet was decimated, their own weapon turned against them. Against all odds, Audrin continued, the humans were able to disable the weapon, turn the tide of battle, and save the galaxy from certain annihilation. Their ingenuity, their bravery, and their determination were unmatched. It was not their strength or advanced technology that won the day, but their indomitable spirit, which made them the true saviors of the galaxy. The room was silent as the students processed what they had just witnessed. The Shalafians, known for their towering intellects, were baffled. How could a species so young, so raw, have achieved such a feat? The Seraphians, who prided themselves on their superior technology, were in disbelief. How could these humans have outsmarted them all? Even the Xerox, fierce warriors who had conquered countless planets, could not help but feel a twinge of respect for a species they had once considered insignificant. Tears began to well up in the eyes of some of the students. It was not just the power of the humans that moved them, but the realization that the galaxy had underestimated them. They had looked down upon humanity, dismissing them as weak, and yet it was humanity that had saved them all. Professor Audrin's voice softened. The lesson here, students, is not just about the power of one race over another. is about the strength of the human spirit. They fought not because they were powerful, but because they had no choice. They fought to protect their home, their families, and their way of life. And that is a lesson that no other species, no matter how advanced, could teach us. The Shelithians, Seraphians, and Xerox were left in stunned silence, their minds processing the magnitude of what they had just learned. For the first time, they saw the humans not as a lesser species, but as equals, no, as something more. Something that had not only survived against all odds, but had triumphed when the rest of the galaxy had failed. As the class ended, the students filed out of the lecture hall, their thoughts heavy and their emotions raw. They had come to learn about the galaxy's greatest wars, but they had left with something far more valuable, a newfound respect for a species they had once overlooked. The humans had not just saved the galaxy, they had changed the way the galaxy viewed strength, courage, and unity. And as the last student exited the room, Professor Audrin watched them go, a small, proud smile crossing his face. The lesson had been taught, and the galaxy would never be the same again.